Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So I have with me the CHED Memorandum 48 series of 2012, subject Criminal Justice Education, Policies, Standards, and Guidelines for the Bachelor of Forensic Science program. So what we'll be discussing here will be those subject that is aligned with our subject post-blast investigation. Okay. So post-blast investigation, ladies and gentlemen, is aligned with, by the way, post-blast investigation also includes the key areas of responsibility as showed here in this table. So we have to understand the principles and practices in forensic science, specifically for our subject in post-blast investigation. So, by the way, what is the purpose of our investigation? To determine the cause of the explosion, right? And aside from that, to determine the persons who are responsible for such explosion and file the appropriate charges against them, testify before the court up to the conviction of such offenders. So we also have to conduct scientific crime detection effectively. So in our case, to conduct scientific post-blast investigation effectively. So we have here the application of criminalistic skills in criminal investigation competently. So we also have to identify and apprehend offenders, of course. So we know for a fact that there are two types of apprehensions of arrest, di ba? First is arrest via valid warrant of arrest, and second is arrest via warrantless arrest. So warrantless arrest is applicable if we were able to caught in the act the person while he is planting for an explosion. Okay? And of course, we have to move for the prosecution and rehabilitation of the offenders. So we have here operation of state-of-the-art equipment instrument in post-blast investigation. We will be also tackling those. Conversion of clues into evidence that have investigative or probative values. So in our case, post-blast investigation, what are the probable leads, okay, for us to be able to determine whether or not the explosion was planned or accidental, intended or accidental. Through what? Of course, we also have to determine the parts of that explosive device. We have to recover all available pieces of that explosive device and determine what specific type of explosive it was. So after we have determined the type of explosive, there can we proceed with further investigation in determining the persons capable of possessing those types of explosives, or those persons capable of, if not possessing, inventing, formulating, creating those types of explosives, diba? Such as IED, and further gather evidence to link them or linking them in the crime scene for them to be held liable for their crime. So, of course, once we have filed a case, once we have participated in the filing of the case, we also have to testify in relation to our affidavit attached in the case folder. Right? So, court testimony and presentation of evidence in court of law. So, next is the knowledge of the Philippine criminal justice system. Yan. So we have to know the pillars of the CGS. And I believe you already know this. You are already graduating students. Knowledge on the criminal law. So what is a criminal law? Branch of law which defines crimes, treats of their nature, and provides punishment. So, evaluation and management of women and children suspected of being abused. So this is more on RA 9262. We need not tackle those because in post-blast investigation, in explosion, in bombing, the gender doesn't matter, especially explosions conducted, planted, or planned or initiated by the terrorist groups. It doesn't matter what the gender of the victims are, who the victims are, the background and personal circumstances of the victims are. Diba? It doesn't matter. What matters is the terror they can show to the public. Yes, to make the public fearful of them. So we also have here possession of thorough knowledge and skills to become post-blast investigators, instructors, and professors. Yeah. So you should be able to demonstrate knowledge, art, and skill to teach post-blast investigation and your ability to identify the needs of your future students, criminalistics, post-blast investigators, instructors, professors in forensic science. So for you guys, you'll have to do, you will be doing some practical exercises, okay, to prepare you for your future endeavor. So we have here curriculum description. We need not read those one by one. Okay, so let's talk now about the specific subjects that are aligned with post-blast investigation. So we have here huh, post-blast investigation is aligned with forensic toxicology, poison, psychology, forensic instrumentation, yes, In our post-blast investigation, we'll also be utilizing instrumentation, specifically in assembling or in determining the recovered parts of explosives in the crime scene. Yan. With the sole objective of identifying the type of explosive and the persons responsible for it. So firearms identification may partially form part of it. Why? Because there are there are firearms that are capable of causing explosion, di ba? The grenade launchers, the rockets, artilleries. So aside from that, we have here explosives and fire technology. So it's two units, explosives and fire technology. So for the criminology student, they have their arson investigation. So aside from that, if the explosion is related with terrorism, we expect mass fatality incident. Okay, so mass fatality incident investigation will also form part of our discussion. Aside from that, we will be trying, saan ba natin to? Mock trial or moot court. So let's see if we can reach those stage or that stage. So of course, since our subject is investigation, yeah, we should also know how to apply that, the principles, concepts of investigation aligned with criminal law 1, law 2, the revised penal code, the fundamentals of criminal investigation, the Philippine criminal justice system, the criminal procedure or trial of criminal cases, the rules on evidence, and we sometimes forensic chemistry also uh, encroaches some aspect of post-blast investigation, especially if the material used in the explosion is a homemade explosive device or the IED, improvised explosive device, the IED. Diba? So all you have to do is to determine the proper formula to create that certain type of explosive. Diba? So that's where your forensic chemistry enters in line with the post-blast investigation. So crime scene investigation, we'll be doing some of it, specifically on the crime scene processing techniques and search techniques. Okay? So firearms identification and explosives and fire technology. So let's just scan this memorandum from check. and probably see some other topics which we can inject in our discussion. Aside from your expectations you had already mentioned, I will be injecting all of your expectation. Okay. Okay. So that's all for now, ladies and gentlemen. So that will be the course outline for our subject post blast investigation. So next meeting we will be having a discussion. I'm not quite sure of the topic. Pipiliin ko pa kung anong unahin natin. Right? But we'll meet, we'll discuss. Right? So that ends our discussion. See you next meeting.